Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group with our partner, All Rise. Today is Saturday, September 23rd, 2023. September is National Suicide Prevention and Hispanic Heritage Month, and also Recovery Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ortega of Scouts Arnold Productions. And our panelist, Frutchey, is a board member of All Rise and involved with the founding of the National Treatment Court Alumni Association. And she's going to talk about Recovery Month, which is September. This is our month. So how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and so excited to talk about Recovery Month.
So tell us, how did Recovery Month come about and what is it all about?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So Recovery Month has been a nationally recognized month since 1989, actually, so over 30 years. SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, our national administration, had really used this month as an opportunity to highlight not only the work that's happening to support recovery from substance use disorder, but really support and highlight the hard work that's happening across our country by community members impacted, families impacted, and those professionals that are working in the field. So over 30 years of celebrating recovery across our country. It's been a really beautiful experience.
And tell me a little bit about your involvement with the establishment of the National Treatment Court Alumni Association. What is that association about, and what is the work that you're doing there?
Yeah, I'd love to share a little bit about that. So first, it's really important that I share that I, too, am a person in recovery, so I was directly impacted by substance use disorder myself and involvement within the justice system. So I'm also a graduate of the treatment court program, which many people know as drug courts nationally. We have almost 4,000 specialty courts across the country, which really focus on diverting individuals out of the justice system and into treatment and recovery and in their communities. And we, too, have been in existence. Treatment courts have been in existence since the late 1980s. And so you can just imagine how many lives have been transformed. And much like mine, there's so many individuals that have had a profound impact from their experience within treatment courts. The National Treatment Court Alumni Association is a group of treatment court graduates from across the country, from Alaska to Maine, where I'm located, that came together a handful of years ago that said, what would it look like if we connected in a way that we could support other treatment court graduates and courts across the country to really advance opportunity for individuals that have lived through the experiences, not only to share our stories, but really to inform policy, programmatic decision-making, advocacy, reduce stigma. And so this group of individuals that came together, we've now formed an organization, and we're working in collaboration with All Rise, and we're just so excited to be able to bring forward the voice of lived experience.
I really appreciate you sharing that information, because it puts people like you coming on our show, and people like my father, people that have been through recovery, and my family. I think it really gives an identity and puts a face to recovery. I think that's really important, because we need to do a better job of what we do in our criminal justice system to try to not just punish. And I say this over and over again, because we're in a punishment mentality sometimes, or culture, instead of a fixing the situation recovery culture. We benefit so much more from helping people get back on their feet and become productive members of society and doing great things like you're doing, versus just letting people go back and forth in and out of prison and wasting court money and taxpayer money and not really solving the problem, letting problems get even worse even. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Tell me some of the benefits of what the program does and how you help people that need to recover.
Yeah, and so the work of the national, so I have so many hats that I wear, and so I'd like to just share a little bit of that for some context. As I shared, I'm a person in recovery. I've also been a social worker, so worked in a professional capacity to assist other individuals that have been impacted by substance use and justice involvement. I was appointed to the board of directors of All Rise as the first treatment court graduate. And this all plays into the work that we do and why it's just so extremely important. The National Treatment Court Alumni Association, our role is to be able to help support courts, these specialty courts that I just spoke of, that we have close to 4,000 to across our country, to support courts in really understanding how they can really utilize the graduates of their program as an asset. You had just really identified when we start really looking at the benefit of engaging individuals with lived experience and just all that they bring to the work, just how that can really grow our programs, heal our communities, really end generational patterns of substance use or family substance use. And so our work at NTCAA is to support courts to really know how they can build alumni groups and support their alumni, while also connecting with alumni across the country. So we have a few different roles around advocacy, reducing stigma, knowing that alumni are not alone, and also educating courts on how they can really benefit from building out their alumni networks within their courts and programs.
About how many people now are in the Alumni Association?
So we started with 11. We started as a think tank. It was this really organic coming together where, again, from Alaska to Maine, we said we want to really think about what this could look like. And from day one, we've had a motto, and it's shoot for the moon. Collectively, we've experienced a lot of traumas in our life. You know, we've experienced the systemic stigma that perpetuates the systems that we engage with, and we knew, we had felt the power of recovery, and so we've said shoot for the moon, and we've continued to do that. Right now, we have 133 members strong, and it is growing, and we have just this past June is when we opened up membership, so we're still in our infancy. And so we're just really excited to be able to work with All Rise to bring our knowledge as individuals with lived experience forward, and to support courts as they, again, build out their alumni networks.
Now, is it only open to people that have gone through recovery, or is it open to anybody?
Yeah, so NTCAA is open to any graduates of treatment court programs, any professionals working within the court or court system, or any professional or organization that supports the mission. So no, it's not just open to treatment court graduates. We do have certain opportunities that are specifically for treatment court graduates only, but our membership is open to anyone that wants to and aligns with the mission of our organization.
Having been someone who's gone through recovery yourself, what is the most important thing that a person who needs to go through recovery needs to understand?
So for me, it's really how I viewed recovery has shifted a bit over the years. I've been in recovery for a bit of time now, and I really look at recovery from substance use as similar to recovery from any medical condition. When we think about going into surgery, what do they do immediately following surgery? They put you in a recovery room. They prepare you for recovery. They make you comfortable. They give you instructions. But what also happens is it's a little bit, the healing process is a little different for everyone. I view recovery from addiction as just that. It's a healing process, and it could look vastly different for you as it did for me. It also could mean that there's a recurrence, or I take a step back, just like if I was healing from any other medical condition. You know, we have setbacks. We might get sick again. We might have barriers. And so when I'm really looking at recovery, I look at it as healing. But what I know is I can't heal alone. Addiction comes with many invisible wounds. And so oftentimes this is where the stigma comes in, because it can't be seen. It's not visible, much like maybe a mental health condition or a trauma that someone's been impacted by. And because those are invisible, community doesn't always understand. And so the healing from those invisible wounds, doing it alone can be trying, it can be overwhelming, and I've really come to recognize that it takes a community, meaning others that have walked the path before me, but also, just like recovery from a medical condition, it means I need community to surround me. I need an employer that will hire me. I need a landlord that will rent an apartment to me. I need a school that will enroll me and not say, because of your history, we won't allow you to pursue your education. I need a community that will embrace me so I can heal and thrive in my recovery. And I say that to everyone that may be either starting their journey, continuing their journey. Find your community. For some of us, it is just that. We're in a community where workforce, education, peer support is vibrant. And in other communities, that may be smaller. It may be just the peer group. And so really finding what that community means to you is so important to that healing process.
So say you're a spouse maybe, or a child of someone who needs to go through recovery, or maybe struggling with recovery. What advice could you give to those people who are witnessing or trying and want to help that person to have successful recovery?
Yeah. One of the first things I say is you're recovering too. You know, you too have gone through this journey, even if you were not the one directly impacted by the substance use disorder. You've been along for the ride, so to say, and that may have come with a lot of, here's those invisible wounds, right? The impacts to relationships, the financial burdens, the worry, the fear, all of those things that can come. And I always say to family, make sure that you're healing too, because it can't just be the individual with the substance use disorder. You heal, and we'll just stay over here. It's really about how can we heal as a family. My husband is also a treatment court graduate, and we met on our recovery journeys, but we have 3 children, and we describe ourselves as a family in recovery. And what that means is while not all of our children have lived through our active substance use, it's very important that they see what recovery means to us and what it means to treat people with dignity that may still be impacted by active substance use. And so for families, it's their healing journey as well is so important. And once we heal together, it can just make that experience healthier. And so that's always what I recommend.
Now, say a person's in prison now or has been arrested and they've gone to jail. Maybe they've been in jail several times. Can that person get into a treatment court situation, particularly if they're a veteran or if they're or in a certain situation where they committed a crime? A lot of it has to do with their substance abuse, whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever, but they are veterans. And of course, part of the treatment court system is also looking at veterans. There's a veterans court, which is a big part of treatment court.
It absolutely is, yes. Justice for Vets, veteran treatment courts play a significant role in supporting our veteran community members. And yes, again, we have treatment courts across the country. Every state has treatment courts. And it really is looking at targeting individuals that have substance use disorder, or in the instance of veterans treatment courts, it may be a mental health condition or experienced trauma. The substance use disorder may not be a primary challenge in their life at that time. But yes, it is available across the country, and depending on what the charges that brought them into the justice system is really at targeting high-risk, high-needs individuals. So this is individuals that may have a severe substance use disorder, history of multiple engagements with the justice system without successful completion or kind of a reoffense. So it's really about targeting those high-risk, high-needs. There's many other diversion programs across the country that may be for kind of lower risk or lower needs or kind of a pre-arrest intervention. But treatment courts, that model has always been a high risk, high needs. And we hope that it is always offered to everyone that comes across through the justice system that meets that criteria.
So make it more clear. So if the person's already in jail, can they still get help to get treatment, or do they have to get arrested again? Does it start when they're in the court? Or does this? Or
yeah,
can they do
so
it
Yeah, it does happen most treatment courts are pre-adjudication, which means it is part of their formal plea agreement through like the district attorney or the state's attorney. State to state, it may differ a little bit, but it is part of their plea agreement. Actually, best practices show that if that is part of the plea agreement, actually upfront jail time is not appropriate. That goes back to what you were saying earlier. Some old school theories of thought are punish them and then treat them, and we know that that's just not effective. It doesn't do anything except cost taxpayer dollars. It's really about getting them into treatment. So it is that pre-adjudication. We do have some states that are probation courts that if someone's on probation and they're not successful on probation, there's multiple violations, they may move right into a treatment court. So that's typically how the process goes. If someone is released from jail or prison and it is part of their plea agreement, it may be entry into treatment court.
But if someone goes to jail and they never get the opportunity to be in treatment court, it's not suggested to them or their attorney doesn't advocate for it, and they go to jail and they do their time, come out, chances are they're probably going to fall back into the same scenario. Maybe, hopefully not, but they might go back in that same activity and then end up in jail again. Maybe make sure that person knows that their treatment court is a real thing, that you can actually try to get it. Makes it now. Do prosecutors who are assigned to, or what do you call it? But prosecutors assigned to the system, not your private attorneys, but court-appointed attorneys. Do they advocate for treatment court oftentimes? Do you see?
Yeah, well, and so my practice, I've been practicing within treatment courts professionally since 2012 right here in Maine. I live in the easternmost county of the United States, so we're really right in the corner on the coast. And I can speak so highly for the work that happens here locally that it is a first line of intervention. So anytime anyone comes through that is meets those eligibility criteria, it is an offer. Now, it is a voluntary program, and, there may be individuals that say, actually, that sounds really hard. Most treatment court programs are a minimum of 12 months, and on average, they last 16 months. It is community-based service, meaning they're staying within the community, they're not incarcerated, and they're only engaged in maybe residential substance use treatment if that is deemed appropriate. But otherwise, they're in the community, they're living, they're working, they're engaging in treatment, and their requirements for a treatment court. But an individual could decline it as well. And so sometimes it depends on what the negotiation is with the prosecutor as far as any jail time versus the commitment for treatment and recovery courts. Again, I'd like to think that what we see here in the court that I work is what we're seeing across the country. It's definitely the majority of what we see. And we work with courts at All Rise. Our focus is on leading. We're the leaders in research, advocacy, and training and technical assistance for all of those courts that I spoke of. And so if we see a court that is not pursuing that, or if we have courts say, like, we really need some help supporting or training our prosecutors or our judges, that's the work of All Rise. That's what we do. We bring research forward. We bring best practices forward to make sure that the field is informed on why these interventions are so effective in so many ways.
So it might be a note to some of our veteran community and even our civilian community that have people in their families that are struggling with recovery to even have that conversation. Have they been approached? Has anybody talked to them about treatment court? So because if that a situation or a similar situation happens again and they're getting the handcuffs put on them because they got into a fight at a bar or were doing a DUI or whatever, then they really don't have an excuse not to try and confront this situation head on by getting some help through treatment court or a program like Veterans Court or things like that. I think it's interesting because when you went through recovery, you said you met your spouse through the recovery. How do you guys support one another as husband and wife?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question. We really support each other's goals to really drive forward with our passions. We both recognize that recovery and our recovery journeys may look vastly different. Mine may be education or other goals of interest, his career, outdoor wilderness, and we just are so supportive of kind of that shoot for the moon motto again. Like nothing is impossible. And when you can have someone in your life that encourages you to try those hard things or step into something that's scary, or when you have self-doubt and they say, I know you'll do it, then you just know that you have that perfect person in your life. And my husband, Brian, is that for me, and I like to think that I'm that for him. And again, surrounding ourselves with community. And our recoveries, while so interconnected, are also so separate. And that's important to each of us, too, really being able to support what it means to each of us to be a person in recovery.
So when you were in your darkest moment, because I understand, the treatment court is difficult. That's one thing you mentioned. That's one thing that's been reiterated on our show many times before. It's not a cakewalk. You have to be serious about it, and they will hold you accountable. Now, when you got to the situation where you decided, you know what, I need to do this. This is something I'm going to make a commitment to, and I'm going to see this through to the end, and I'm going to go down that dangerous, not dangerous, but that struggle. I'm going to take on that burden and take that struggle to get better and recover. How do you see yourself today versus that person then who had to make that decision to be committed to recovery?
I'll say I don't know if I felt I had a choice, meaning, and not a choice that it was being forced on me. It was survival. When I found myself incarcerated when my infant son was 11 months old, and it was within that jail cell, kind of forced to detox and have those first, days of not being impacted by drugs and alcohol, that I really realized that something needs to be different. And it was in that moment that when treatment court was offered to me, I saw that as a blessing. I was scared, not scared because of what the program entailed. I was scared because I didn't know if I could achieve it. I didn't know if I could maintain sobriety. I was scared of myself. Today, that's what's different, is I'm not scared of myself anymore. I feel like recovery has given me that ability to know that I can make healthy choices. And even if I don't, because I make choices sometimes where I just think that was maybe not the best choice. I just have that insight now. I have that compassion for myself, that I can forgive myself. I can communicate now to others if it means an apology or making an amends. And that's what recovery has given me. I'm not scared of myself anymore.
Do you feel unstoppable in a way?
Oh, I definitely do. If you told me a decade ago that I'd be sitting here today doing what I'm doing, I'd tell you that you were so full of it. And that's one thing we tell, at the National Treatment Court Alumni Association, we say we're not unique. What we have, you can have. Recovery is for everybody. And that's such an important message, because that first day when I was so scared of myself, I didn't think, when I saw others smiling, glowing, talking about what they were achieving, I didn't think I could have that. I thought they were unique. They had something special. And I learned over time, because I trusted in that process, and I learned over time that I too can have that. And I just had to continue to kind of trust in that process and trust in myself.
Do you see in the future that this becomes, because I'm going back to that question about when somebody gets arrested, everybody gets a chance to have treatment court brought to them as an option, or if they're willing to go down that path. Where do you see treatment courts going in the future? And I ask this question to many people because I want to get everybody's different. Everybody has a different view of what they see coming 10 years down the road. Because it seems like this could be the model to really change the criminal justice system.
Well, one thing that we've seen is what we've seen is across the board, we've had bipartisan support. It's one of the few, right? The few interventions that across the board we've seen support on both sides of the aisle. And with that, the research, as I shared with you, we depend on that research. And the research continues to tell us this works. And we're also All Rise, which is formerly known as the National Association of Drug Court Professionals. We're also moving forward to look at other opportunities for intervention that may not be specifically to treatment courts, because we recognize not everyone may be impacted by an arrest, for example, and so they may not be appropriate for a treatment court. But you had said that earlier, or you had asked that question, is what other interventions? And so we're looking at opportunities to support not only children that are impacted by family substance use. We're looking at law enforcement and the traumas that they impact how they're impacted through this work. And so we're looking at all areas of the justice system, because we know we're in this opportunity to really be able to navigate all of those different areas of the justice system, not just treatment and recovery court. So we're really excited for our rebrand. Just this year, just in June, we announced our rebrand, and really just moving forward with that. And so looking at all doors. So any way someone enters the justice system, we want to make sure that we're there at that door and we're able to give them an opportunity, whether it's with peers, with treatment and recovery supports. We want to make sure they have an opportunity.
We've got about 30 seconds left. Have you ever met Martin Sheen?
I have not had an opportunity to meet Martin Sheen. I have met Leslie Jordan prior to his passing last year, and just some phenomenal individuals that are advocates for treatment courts, but not Martin Sheen. So if you're listening to this, I'd love to meet you.
That's Frutchey. She is a board member of All Rise and involved with the founding of the National Treatment Court Alumni Association. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much.
This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.